Hello world, this is Random Fix, and in this video today we're going to be discussing the Volvo drive cycle procedure for any 1996 and newer Volvo. You are going to need to get yourself one of these little tiny OBD2 readers. The cost is under $30, and you could find the port for this connector underneath your driver's side footwell area. You may have a cap on yours like the one I'm showing you here. Mine happens to be white. It just slides right on, and once you slide it in you get power, and you want to make sure that your ignition is on but the motor is off, and the way you can tell is by when the check engine light is actually on with the motor off. And now we can go ahead and scan the vehicle and check those monitors, which we need to get ready so we can get the vehicle to pass an emissions test, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. And before we jump into the drive cycle, check out the Smog Tips playlist. And once you click on the playlist, you can actually watch the whole drive cycle in process, where I'm going to show you how to do this on the road. And if you need further assistance on how to understand these inspection monitors, check out this video titled "What to Do to Smog a Car." Hello world, this is Random Fix, and in this video today I'm going to show you how to complete the drive cycle for your 1996 and newer Volvos. And before we actually dive into the drive cycle, I'm going to cover with you guys some basic vocabulary that will really help make this process a little bit easier for you guys. So if I mention the word OBD2 during this video, please know that I'm referring to the OBD2 protocol here, which is going to be what came out in 1996. And this nice little connector that is going to be in the driver's side footwell area of your vehicle. And you may have a little cap that covers it up like I showed you guys earlier in the video. And before 1996, this whole thing was a mess, and each vehicle manufacturer had their own port. So this connector is actually a great little tool to have, because now we can troubleshoot our vehicles using this little $30 connector. And I'll have a link to it in the video box below as well. When you're troubleshooting your vehicle, in case you have any codes that come up, those codes are called DTCs, or diagnostic trouble codes. And then there's pending codes and hard set codes. And so a hard set code is one where the computer has actually detected the issue and it's triggered a check engine light. And a pending code is a little different, because the vehicle has detected the issue, yet it needs more information before it triggers any kind of check engine light on the vehicle. Just know that these faults like this have to be dealt with before we actually do the drive cycle, because no matter how well you do the drive cycle, if you have a pending code or your check engine light is on, nothing's going to get ready. MIL basically stands for a malfunction indicator light, aka the check engine light, the service engine light, the service engine soon light. When you're using an OBD2 reader, you may see OK, and what that OK represents is that that monitor is complete, it's set, and it's ready. INC represents incomplete, unset, not ready. And when you come across a monitor and the scanner says NA next to it, basically that doesn't apply, so skip it. And right here I have 5 major inspection monitors, and this is the order that they normally get ready in. So the very first monitor to get ready is going to be the oxygen sensor heater monitor. And the oxygen sensor heater monitor is basically the monitor that's tied into the heater circuit of the oxygen sensor. And the oxygen sensor heater basically allows the vehicle to go and get the oxygen sensor up to speed faster, so the vehicle could go ahead and take over the emissions. And we have the oxygen sensor. And on most 4-cylinder Volvos, for example, you're going to have at least 2 catalysts. So there's one before the CAT. This is known as the pre-CAT or upstream oxygen sensor. We also have one after the catalytic converter called post-CAT or downstream oxygen sensor. We have the EGR monitor, and the EGR is the exhaust gas recirculation. We have the CAT monitor, and you may hear certain people speak around shops, automotive shops, and they'll say things like, my cats are bad. Basically, they're saying their catalytic converters are bad, and some vehicles do have more than one catalytic converter. So the catalytic converter is the part, and the CAT is the monitor that's displayed on the little scan tool that you can use to check the status of the monitors. Evap stands for the Evaporative Emissions Control Systems, and basically this keeps the gas fumes out of the atmosphere. And as a tip, when you're doing the drive cycle here for the Volvo, it's really nice to have a stopwatch because it'll allow you to go ahead and time everything and make it a lot easier. So some technical parameters on the Volvo before we dive into the actual drive cycle, which is coming up next. You want to make sure that the check engine light is off and there's no stored codes in the vehicle memory. Gas level should be between 1/4 to 3/4 full. 3/4 is recommended, and make sure you park on a level surface overnight. Avoid sudden acceleration, sharp turns, or sudden braking. I like to avoid hails when I'm doing this test because what happens is the fuel will move around in the gas tank and it will basically delay my evap monitor from setting. You want to make sure all the accessories like the rear defroster and the lights are off. You want to make sure that the AC is off. Don't want to use cruise control on the drive cycle. And the night before, you want to make sure you lock your vehicle and take your keys far away from the vehicle because a lot of the newer Volvos will sense the keys nearby, and this may keep certain monitors from actually setting. So this is going to be my drive cycle procedure for the Volvo, and towards the end of the video I'm going to give you guys two alternate ones that are a little bit more difficult, and I'll have that actually in the video description box below, so if you guys want to print them out, if you have an older Volvo you may need to use those, but for 80% of the Volvos out there, if everything is working on your car correctly, this is going to set those monitors. So step one, basically we're going to go ahead and start the vehicle without touching the accelerator pedal. So start the engine and let it idle for 3 minutes. Once the 3 minutes is up, you want to go ahead and accelerate to 50 miles an hour within 30 seconds. So you make sure that you go ahead and get to that speed pretty quick. And once you're at 50 miles an hour, go ahead and hold that speed for 20 minutes. Again, no cruise control, so you're going to have to find yourself a very open road and do this during off-peak hours so you're not stuck behind another vehicle. Once the 20 minutes is up, you're going to go ahead and stop the Volvo and let the vehicle idle for 5 minutes. And you want to make sure that the AC is off. Step 4, you want to go ahead and return back to driving. Now we're going to go and increase speeds again to 50 miles an hour within 30 seconds. And this time we're going to go ahead and hold that speed again for another 20 minutes. And once step 4 is completed, you're going to go and stop the vehicle. And once the vehicle is stopped in a safe location, turn the engine off for 30 minutes. And after the 30 minutes is up, you want to ensure that the cold soak, all the stuff has been processed. And the next morning, go ahead and repeat this process. And really, this is based on the condition of your vehicle, how well everything is working. So the newer your vehicle is, the easier this is going to be. And sometimes on an older vehicle where the components are really aged, this may take even longer. And once you've completed the second drive cycle, go ahead and use an OBD2 reader like I showed you in the very beginning of the video, and scan the monitors to see which monitors are incomplete. And when you get back from your test drive, you want to scan it, and if everything is done, it'll say 0 codes incomplete, 7 that are complete, and 4 that don't apply, and 0 codes found. And this is a 100% chance that you're going to go ahead and pass your emissions tests as long as you haven't altered anything on your vehicle and your vehicle passes the visual inspection as well, which I'll cover a little bit later. Once you figure out what monitors are incomplete, as a helpful tip, focus on those unset monitors. So I'm going to cover that with you guys in a little bit on what monitors get set by what kind of driving. And here's some more technical information here for your Volvo. By completing the drive cycle one time, you should be able to reset most of the monitors. However, some monitors do need that second trip, and that second trip will go and complete those. Sometimes certain monitors will go ahead and take an average, and you may need to go ahead and complete this even more than 2 times. So if your vehicle is much older, you're going to need to do this. If it's got a lot of higher miles, you may need to complete it a 3rd time, and keep doing that until you get that monitor set. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about is monitors. So for example, your oxygen sensor heater monitor, that's really going to get ready during that warm-up cycle of the drive cycle. The oxygen sensor monitor itself gets warmed up after the vehicle has had a chance to idle and you're accelerating to that 50 miles an hour. The EGR really gets ready when you're coming off the freeway and you're reducing speeds from 50 to a complete stop. Whenever you're doing that, see if you could actually just let the vehicle coast instead of braking. So when you're driving 50 miles an hour, let your foot off the gas pedal and let it go down under 15 miles an hour. Then you can use a brake to go ahead and slow you down the rest of the way. That's one of my helpful tips. Whenever I'm doing a drive cycle, I always like to let the vehicle coast whenever possible. And for the catalyst monitor, that high-speed freeway driving at 50 miles an hour really sets that monitor. And for the Evap, it's just a matter of making sure that you park on a level surface, that you ensure that the vehicle has enough fuel, and that you drive steady and you avoid those hails and keep the fuel from just gushing around in the rear of the tank. Hey guys, really quick, if you're finding this video to be helpful and you're enjoying the content, please consider hitting that thumbs up button and subscribing to the channel as well, as it lets YouTube and me know that I'm doing a good job and bringing you guys value content. Thanks. And right here I have the official 17-step Volvo drive cycle, and I'll leave this in the actual video box below. So towards the bottom you'll find this, and this is a lot more work. And if you do need to do this, here is going to be the steps 1 through 9, and here are steps 10 through 17. And when you get to step 17, obviously you're going to go ahead and repeat this once again because it needs a second trip. And on the second trip, you're going to go and scan it to see what monitors are incomplete. If you have an older Volvo, this is the drive cycle that I recommend doing. And I'll have a link to this in the video box below as well. So you can go ahead and just copy and print it out and take it with you on your drive cycle for the older Volvos. And once your monitors are set, you're ready to now go and get the vehicle smogged. Remember, if your vehicle is a 96 through 99 vehicle, you will have to get the vehicle tested on a dyno at 15 and 25 miles an hour. They're going to use a gas analyzer to test the vehicle's emissions. They're going to test your gas cap. They'll do some other tests, and they're also going to do a visual. Even if you have a 2000 and newer vehicle, they're going to do a visual. But on a 2000 and newer vehicle, they're just going to check for the OBD2 readiness. So they're going to plug in their OBD2 reader into the vehicle from the state and check the monitors. Remember, the visual inspection consists of checking for altered parts like cold air intakes, throttle spacers, cracked vacuum hoses, missing catalytic converters. They're going to do a visual smoke test to make sure that you don't have clouds of smoke coming out the tailpipe. And as of the end of 2020, this is the current rules here for California, and California happens to be one of the stricter states, so you have to check the regulations for your own state. Here in California, if you have a 96 through 99 vehicle, you can have any one monitor show incomplete and still pass. Now, depending on the smog station, they may just go ahead and plug in their OBD2 reader is not connected to the state, see that you have a monitor that's incomplete, and tell you to keep driving, because they don't want anything to come back to them to show that on their record for the shop showing that they passed X amount of vehicles with unset monitors. So if that happens to you, go to another station. And if you have a 2000 and newer vehicle, only the Evap could be unset. And with diesel powered vehicles 98 through 2006, basically all the monitors have to show complete. On newer diesel vehicles 2007 and newer, you can have any two monitors show incomplete. And remember, when you're selling a car, it's the seller's responsibility to make sure that they supply the buyer with a smog certificate. And normally there's no way of waiving this requirement unless you're selling to a dealer or dismantler. So even if you write as is on the title, that doesn't really mean anything, because if it goes to court, you're most likely going to lose that suit unless they're a dealer or a dismantler. And if you're a buyer, never buy a vehicle unless all the inspection monitors are ready. And 99% of the times, if the inspection monitors are not ready, is because somebody has erased that check engine light on purpose to cover up an existing issue, whether it's a dealer or a private seller. And 1% of the time is caused by a weak or faulty battery. And if this is the case, you still have to find out why that battery is dying, because you could have a potential short, you could have an alternator. And when there's a bad battery in a vehicle, all kinds of funny things start happening, from smog emissions monitors not getting ready to transmissions acting up, and it's a big list of potential issues. I'm going to show you guys the configuration on a typical four-cylinder vehicle here. And on a typical four-cylinder vehicle, you have two oxygen sensors and one catalytic converter. So here's the vehicle here. This is the engine. And as the exhaust makes it out the engine block through the headers, downpipe, and it will go past this upstream oxygen sensor, which is known as the pre-CAT oxygen sensor. And then the exhaust will go through the catalytic converter here. Then the downstream or post-CAT oxygen sensor will go ahead and get a reading. And the way the computer is able to verify the efficiency of the catalytic converter here is by taking this reading and this reading and comparing them based on the parameters of what the vehicle manufacturer has set up to verify that this in fact is working correctly. And after the emissions pass the downstream oxygen sensor, it goes through a little resonator here, down through the tailpipe, through the muffler, and out to the atmosphere. And here on a 6-cylinder or 8-cylinder, I'm going to show you guys a couple of diagrams down here. On these, you can have 3 or 4 oxygen sensors depending on the setup, and 1 or 2 catalytic converters. So if we look at this diagram right here, this is a V6 motor. So it has a total of 6 cylinders, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, thus making it a V6 motor. And whatever side cylinder number 1 is located on, that's called bank 1. So if you're dealing with an emissions issue and it tells you that sensor 1 on bank 2 is bad or acting up, you can look at the opposite side of cylinder 1 and know that it's the opposite side. This sensor right here that may potentially need to get replaced. So we have 1, 2, 3 oxygen sensors on this vehicle and 1 catalytic converter. And this too is a V6 motor. The only difference is the cylinder number 1 is located on the lower side here, and this is bank 1, and now this is bank 2. And here on this setup here, this is a V6 motor, and we have a total of 6 cylinders again, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. But now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 oxygen sensors and 1, 2 catalytic converters. And if it was a V8, it would just have an extra cylinder on each side. And here's my top 8 tips to pass an emissions test. The very first one is going to be make sure that you smog right the very first time. So if you know your vehicle has an issue, you want to make sure to get that issue fixed before you try to go and smog the vehicle. And you should never really fail an emissions test, because with these simple scan tools, you can verify that all the monitors are ready. And before you go to the station, you can just do a simple plug-in and it'll let you know that the car's inspection monitors are ready. And you can do this with confidence, knowing that you're going to go and pass now, because any failed emissions data will get reported to Carfax and AutoCheck, and this can actually reduce the value of your vehicle. Number 2, you want to make sure that the check engine light is off but working. So before you purchase a vehicle, put the key in the ignition and turn it to the very last position and verify that the check engine light is there. And I've seen people actually remove the check engine light. 3, this really helps with those 96 through 99 vehicles. You want to make sure that the tires are properly inflated, as this will lessen the load and will allow the vehicle better operations. The same thing with the oil here. The oil actually contains a lot of the hydrocarbons, and since they're going to be doing a real emissions test using a gas analyzer, you want to make sure you reduce the hydrocarbon numbers here, and this is a simple oil change. And tip 5, you want to go ahead and take the vehicle for a very long test drive before you reach the emission station, and leave the car on if possible before you get it tested with the emissions probe. Tip number 6, use some fuel additives. I personally love the Lucas Oil upper cylinder loop. You'll find a link to this in the video box below, as well as anything else that I showed you guys in the video. Tip number 7, you want to avoid wet weather, and this is not to say that you cannot pass an emissions test with it raining outside. However, you'll just get much better results if the tires are dry. And tip number 8, do not disconnect the battery unless you have a battery saver device set up, and these are about $15. And basically this will keep your car's computer data, your clocks, your radio stations all in sync. And remember, the only real solution oftentimes is to repair or replace the component. So there's no such thing as a miracle in a bottle. But if you're looking for a quick fix for your catalytic converter, just because maybe you don't have the time or money to go and have that issue fixed, I have a couple of videos down in the video box below that cover such products, and I'll give you guys my honest and truthful review of them and some preventative tips here. I love doing everything myself, so if you can try doing some of the simpler repairs yourself, like the engine oil changes, transmission fluids, differentials, changing the filters, the engine air filter, the cabin air filter, the fuel filter. If you clean your throttle body, change the wipers, and do the brakes on your own vehicle. This is such a nice thing to start doing, because the more you learn about a vehicle, the better off you're going to be as far as taking care of it. And what I have found out from my own experience of working on cars over the last 27 years is the time that I actually save doesn't even compare to the amount of money, because a lot of people will go and get their oil changed at the dealer, and that could take 1 hour or 2 hours. Most of the times I'm able to change the oil on my vehicle in under 15 minutes. So not only did I save between 60 to 80 bucks, but I saved myself at least 45 minutes of not having to wait around, and I got it done and I can go move on with my life. I really hope the video helped you guys out. If it did, please comment down below and let me know if you guys have any suggestions and feedback. I would really appreciate it. If you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner right here. There's going to be also a little bell. That's the notification icon. If you guys want to click on that, anytime I post a video that's aimed to save you time and money, you guys will get notified. Thanks again so much, and have a great day. And if you need additional help, please check out the Smog Tips playlist. On there, I have videos on how to go ahead and use certain chemicals that can help your catalyst get ready, how to go ahead and install oxygen sensors, how to test the oxygen sensor heater elements, all kinds of great useful tips. Thanks.